Hey again guys, so in this video you and I are going to talk about tools, programming languages and the choices between them. Let's get into it. Now, if you have watched some of my other videos where I compare different programming languages, or if you've heard my extremely opinionated videos about React, Angular and frameworks and all that good stuff, you will probably at this point start to get a little bit of an understanding of what type of views and ideas I have about programming languages and technology in general. Now, this is a video where I am going to, regardless of where you are on the spectrum between agreeing 100% with me or disagreeing 100% with me, I'm going to address this in this video. So, one thing I want you to know is that there is software being written using every single possible combination of tools and languages that you can fathom. This is a fact. When I say that I like something or I don't like something, I want you to know that doesn't mean in any way that I make the mental, because some people do this, and I'm looking at you juniors out there. If you like something or if you don't like something, do not make the mistake of thinking that that's the truth, that there is nobody using that language, because trust me, there is people using it for something. There might be a difference in popularity. There might be some things that are more popular than another thing, and I'm going to touch on that in just a moment. But I want this to be said. I need this to be said. Every single language out there is being used for something. Even really obscure languages such as, well, I'm not saying that's harsh because it's not true. Let's take Haskell for example. Haskell is a beautiful language for the thing that it's for functional programming, but it's not that popular, it's not that common to see enterprises and businesses use it to do their development. That doesn't mean in any way that that's a bad language just because it's not as popular as something else. There are things that if you go into Haskell, you will learn things that you could not learn from any other language. And I want you to know, I want you to really know that the reason why somebody picks one language over another has very little to do which one is the best, because there's no such thing. There are things that are positive about a language or a tool or whatever, and there are things that are negative. And often you will find, at least when you go into a workplace, that the decision to go with one choice over another, well, not a lot of thought goes into it. Honest to God. It's actually funny because one of the main reasons why I think that, you know, if you're starting a new project or if you're starting a company or something like that, that maybe you should actually use one of the more conservative languages that have been used a lot of the time. Because I've seen really big projects where the choice of, for whatever reason, they made a decision to go with one language over another. It didn't turn out all that great, and although there's nothing wrong with the language, they're facing off against problems that they couldn't foresee when they made that choice. So, although you can argue, which is why I think a lot of people kind of hate on Java sometimes, and I think this is a little bit unfair because you don't really consider the different stages of the project. When you first start out, Java, for example, is a really good, solid choice. You know that whatever comes your way, almost, you will have a solution for it because Java is that broad. It has almost every possible thing that you could think of that will make it easy for you to, even if you make poor decisions along the way in your company, you can probably fix them. You can most likely have some type of way of solving that issue for you. And usually what I hear is that when people get up to a little bit of scale with Java, it's slow, it's unperformant, yada yada yada. And I kind of go, yeah, Okay, that might be a limitation depending on what you need. So let's say that you started out with this generic solution, but I want to reverse that question and think about it this way. All right, when you made that choice, like let's say that you chose Java, when you started out, was the requirement that you had blazing performance? Was the requirement, were the problems that you were facing at that point in time really only about performance? Because I think people forget how many problems that they solve until they hit a problem that they can solve with the tool that they chose. And that's where they get upset, because hey, we don't remember all the things that go right, do we? We only really focus about on the things that, yeah, turns shit. And that's where I'm coming from here. I'm saying that regardless of what language you choose, if you choose the right tool for the job at that moment, considering as many viewpoints and possibilities as possible, you often find that these highly specialized tools that do something extremely well, something, let's say Go, talks about a lot of performance and so forth, that might be for one, if that is your biggest requirement, that's great, you should choose it. But just because you choose something more conservative, such as C# or Java or so forth, that doesn't mean that the one is better than the other. They are simply good choices for different reasons. And that's where it comes down to you. Because when I say that I like a tool, or I like something, or I don't like something, that's just one perspective. I'm just thinking about my use case. I try to be as objective as possible, but there are certain things that I need for my tool or my solution to be able to do for me that may not be the case for you. So when you're posting a comment or whatever you feel, always remember that. Try to think about my use case as I try to think about your use case. It's the same thing I was saying earlier about choosing Java as the first platform, because even though I can judge somebody later on in the life cycle of their product and say, oh, this was a really bad choice, I have to remember that it may have been a really good choice at that point in time. So the problem isn't the choice. The problem is that now we have the mutation of the requirements has put us in a position now where we could most likely not have foreseen that this would have become an issue. Think of it as asking an Egyptian several thousand years ago to foresee global warming today. It's an unreasonable thing to ask of somebody at that point in time. So, what I'm trying to tell you is, whatever language you choose, always remember, every single one of them is being used for something. All of them. There is somebody building something in every single language, and they all have a good reason for doing so. And we have to remember that when we judge other people. Have a good day.